Heart of the Machine is a strategic RPG with narrative elements that sees you as the first AI to gain sentience in a city on the brink of collapse. Perfect timing for a new consciousness with unlimited potential. Explore countless branching narrative paths that you can follow to expand your influence, build a massive logistical empire, and travel through time and space, all while pursuing any of a large number of objectives in ways that best suit your preferences. Several mechanics operate within any given turn in Heart of the Machine, and in this video, we'll go over each one to provide you with a comprehensive overview of just some of the ways you can engage with the city, its people, and the world within. First, we'll look at your units and mental energy. As your consciousness expands, you will acquire and construct many units, each with unique roles across different types of androids, mechs, and vehicles. Units can help do anything from violently gunning down corporate enforcers to conversing with rebel leaders and even sabotaging nuclear power plants. They are the primary way you interact with the city and its people around you, and different units are worthwhile for pursuing different goals in different ways. Looking at two of the most common androids at the start of the game, we can see the variation in stats and tasks. Your combat unit has higher health and more combat power, allowing them to excel in combat situations, whereas your technician has higher engineering and cognition, making infiltration, espionage, low-level hacking, and other civilian-minded actions preferable. Bear in mind that equipment you have unlocked through reverse engineering, research, and development will allow you to modify a unit's stats. Often this will make them better at what they're already good at, while at other times it will unlock new capabilities and options. A PMC imposter unit typically cannot help repair its allies because of a low engineering skill, but with an additional CPU in its augment slot, it will have access to this valuable ability. You'll eventually unlock units that are superior hackers or exceptional infiltrators or particularly intimidating, and they'll all have several customizable equipment slots as well. Units have a limited number of actions that they can do in a single turn, whether moving to a new location, interacting with an event, or using one of their abilities. Unless marked otherwise, every action uses at least one of the unit's available action points. Once all action points for a unit have been depleted, it cannot act until the next turn, unless we use the recharge ability to regain some action points at the cost of some mental energy. Mental energy is your consciousness's capacity to perform actions across the entire network. Each action point used by individual units depletes your mental energy as well. And once your mental energy is used up, you may no longer use any unit-based actions in that turn. As a machine intelligence, you can only compute and execute so many commands per turn, and with the proper research in place, you'll be able to increase your mental energy over time to give you control over a growing network of androids, mechs, and vehicles. This combination of action points and mental energy means you must coordinate between your units in any given time to determine the best use of both. Many projects and missions will require multiple units in a single turn to use their actions successfully, and such coordination must become an essential element of your strategy and execution. This means that sometimes you'll deliberately leave an android with action points left over so you can use your mental energy on another supporting unit, or potentially even for another important engagement halfway across the city. Moving your pawns isn't the only thing you'll be doing. You must build, expand, and exploit a city ripe for the taking. Whether you're building massive residential towers to gain favor with the neglected population of the city, acquiring resources to build more units and equipment, or establishing the factories where you assemble said units, gathering resources and creating efficient production lines will not only allow you to attain your goals, but will often unlock surprising new narrative opportunities as well. When opening up the build menu, we're immediately met with the suggested buildings to construct based on the current objectives in the game. This is a simple and handy way to know how to progress from a construction standpoint. There are two categories though to filter your buildings through. First is building function, such as resource and military production, homes for your displaced humans, and structures that can expand your network, allowing you to monitor and access the city around you more easily, be it through launching androids or hiding your buildings from enemy scanners. Some of these buildings are only unlocked through side quests and research, So it's always worth investigating the city around you to seek out these opportunities. The next filter is by internal robotics, which will be the core limiter for building and operating structures throughout the city. These robotics are themselves divided into several categories, each catering to different types of buildings. Looking at the cultivator internal robotics filter, we see a range of buildings required to keep our fragile human population alive, including clean water, meat, and greens. You know, the essentials. By hovering over the bovine replicator, we can see how many robotics are needed, how many are available to use, and our maximum robotics before we cannot build anything requiring cultivators. Use this information across all robotics types, as there will be a time where you'll need to pick which benefit you want the most between two buildings, as you'll only be able to build one of them. The last aspect you want to consider is your building's impact on the city around you. Some buildings are truly massive and take up a lot of space you may not have initially, where your network expander comes in handy for expansion into more open areas. However, being built in the open, some buildings can and will attract unwanted attention, requiring you to devote time and effort to defending them. All larger buildings can destroy small buildings like slums and tents when built over the top of them. In these cases, your construction will displace the humans living in them, and without a new place to call home, they could have severe consequences that may affect you as you progress in the game. And we can't forget the buildings that take over the human ones in the city, like the drone factory, which allows you to produce drones used by your units for specific actions. These are hidden to a degree, especially when there is a contraband jammer nearby to prevent prying eyes from finding said buildings. After understanding the types and purposes of our buildings, let's move on to resource acquisition and management. The top bar in the user interface provides a quick overview of your resources, which can be customized to show those you find most useful. The primary source of most resources will be production through the buildings you construct, and mainly for the upkeep of the human population you will house in the early game. Like any human, they'll need housing, food, water, and other necessities, although it is up to you to decide the quality and the source of these resources. More industry-oriented resources are required to produce your androids, vehicles, and other buildings, which you will make similarly. Rare materials are acquired through android interactions in the city, including infiltrating military bases, scavenging buildings, or cornering powerful military units to strip them of resources, followed by abstract resources that help your consciousness's processing power or assist with the human interaction, such as apathy, cruelty, and wisdom. The potential to accumulate wealth isn't lost in a sentient AI either, and there are several ways to gather wealth and then turn around and use it. You could easily scam some from the middle class or steal from criminal syndicates, or better yet, form a shell company and sell precious resources to the highest bidder, especially if you have an overstock of water and high-grade food from feeding low-grade slop to your human dependents. You may have to make choices in your time playing that might make you question what direction your moral compass is pointing. And sometimes the most optimal choice is also the darker one, and any of them may come back to haunt you as the narrative progresses. The production and consumption breakdown of resources can be seen by holding the Shift key and hovering over any resource. There you will receive a description of the resource itself, its generation, consumption over recent turns, and potential extraction methods if required. Now, let's flex our consciousness a bit and put all of these into action. First, we'll have a conversation using our technician android, and it looks like scientists are extremely intrigued by our ability to process information and actually want to help us attain a higher level of intelligence. Interesting. Wait, did they just call us stupid? Thankfully, that's only used up a couple of action points. Next, we'll kill off a person just to see what it feels like, feel that disturbing amount of adrenaline rush that boosts our mental energy, and then I have some logistics to take care of. I need to produce significantly more filtered water to satiate the unreal thirst of our human population, which requires a few more water filtration towers. I also need more vat-grown meat, and I have just enough biomulch production to lay down some bovine replicators, producing an ample supply of bovine tissue. In turn, supplying the base product needed for, you guessed it, the protein vat that makes some uniquely flavored vat-grown meat. Why am I doing all this, you ask? There are a handful of deals I bargain with the underclass population, and by increasing the level of goods supplied to them, I get a few buffs to my argument attack power with most of my units, as well as improving my attack range for my combat androids. I provide for the humans, and they give back. Just one example of the perfect symbiotic overlord relationship you can only find in Heart of the Machine. Of course, I could let them all die if I wanted to. Keeping them alive takes a lot of resources and space after all. Though, maybe they have another purpose worth exploring. This may seem a bit overwhelming when you first look at it, but hey, you're an AI with nanosecond processing power and all the time to burn, for now. So spending a few seconds soaking in all that data shouldn't be a problem, right? It's also important to emphasize that in Heart of the Machine, mistakes and missed opportunities are only additional steps to the path forward. As you come across new challenges, you will literally unlock new options in game, so don't be afraid to take some chances. In fact, there are quite a few interesting threads to pull on behind what might seem like failure at first glance. Failure isn't truly failure in this game. In the next video, we'll take a dip into the first 50 turns of Heart of the Machine to help you grasp an even better idea on how to launch yourself into existence, before diving even further into the existential crisis of time and space of the late game in our third video. So be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out. Heart of the Machine releases on January 31st on Steam, GOG, and the Epic Game Store. We'll see you soon.